She vanished after the backlash, but now, whispers are turning into roars. Behind closed doors and under the radar, Pam Bondi is making bold moves that hint at something big. A Senate run in 2026. The signs are everywhere, and we've connected the dots. This isn't just speculation, it's a political chess game in motion. Stay tuned. She's been silent, but make no mistake, her silence is deliberate. In the world of politics, silence often speaks louder than words, and in Pam Bondi's case, that silence is echoing across Florida's political landscape like a warning bell. Ever since she faced a fiery media backlash just months ago, Bondi seemed to disappear from the spotlight. No public statements, no interviews, no flashy appearances, just absence. But now, something's changed. It's not just political gossip anymore, it's the coordinated whisper of a comeback. Behind closed doors, Bondi has been making moves, subtle, calculated, and strategic. And to the trained political eye, those moves signal something major brewing on the horizon. In recent weeks, she's quietly reappeared at small gatherings, popped up at charity events she previously had no connection to, and reignited old networks she'd long left dormant. Some have dismissed it as coincidence, but insiders know better. In politics, nothing this polished is ever an accident. It starts with small signs, a new website domain quietly registered in her name, the sudden appearance of her former campaign staffer at a conservative fundraiser, and even a cryptic retweet from one of her trusted allies hinting at a new era for Florida's right-wing leadership. These aren't random sparks, they're part of a slow-burning fire that's catching wind. Bondi has also reportedly updated her social media presence, new headshots, a change in bio language, and even a subtle shift in messaging tone across her old official pages. To most people, it might look like routine maintenance. But to political operatives and campaign watchers, this is groundwork. Image cleanup? Sure, that's part of it. But there's something deeper at play. Her inner circle has grown tighter, and those close to her have become noticeably more cautious when asked about her future. No comment is the new standard reply when journalists poke around about a potential Senate run. But no comment often means there's something worth hiding, or waiting to reveal. And timing is everything. With Florida's Senate seat approaching its 2026 cycle, now is when pre-campaign efforts would quietly begin. What's more, Bondi's previous experience in statewide office gives her an edge many newcomers lack. She knows the game, the terrain, and more importantly, the voter base. She's played this hand before, and now she might be getting ready to play it again, but bigger. The hush around her isn't because she's done with politics, it's because she's preparing her next move with precision. High-level GOP donors have been unusually active in Florida this quarter, and whispers around Tallahassee suggest Bondi has been seen meeting with several of them in recent weeks, though nothing has been officially confirmed. Add that to reports of her appearing at private retreats and think tank discussions on conservative leadership in the post-Trump era, and the pieces begin to fall into place. Pam Bondi may not have announced anything yet, but the signals are too strong to ignore. Every quiet move, every updated profile photo, every unlisted donor dinner, each one is another piece of the puzzle. If this isn't the start of a Senate bid, then it's the best imitation we've ever seen. Political circles across Florida and even in Washington are beginning to take notice, and campaign strategists are dusting off old notes from her last run, just in case she jumps into the race. While she may still be off the front pages for now, the story is already writing itself behind the scenes. Some call it speculation, but others say it's the opening act of a carefully crafted comeback. And if Pam Bondi is indeed planning a Senate run in 2026, then we're watching one of the most strategic political re-entries in recent GOP history unfold right before our eyes. Behind the polished smiles and soft denials, a very real political strategy is beginning to unfold, and it's happening far from the cameras. According to sources close to several GOP donors, Pam Bondi has been holding quiet, invite-only dinners in two of Florida's most powerful hubs, Tallahassee and Palm Beach. These aren't public fundraisers or photo-op events. These are small, controlled environments filled with serious people having serious conversations. At first glance, it might seem like just another social dinner or networking get-together. But those inside the room say the tone is deliberate, the questions are pointed, and there's one central issue driving the discussion: is the Senate seat in 2026 truly within reach? These meetings reportedly lack official titles or campaign banners, but the people in the room know what's really going on. Bondi is gauging support, testing the waters, mapping out alliances, and quietly building what looks a lot like the early framework of a campaign infrastructure. The lack of press coverage is no accident. Sources say attendees are vetted, confidentiality is emphasized, and phones are often discouraged. Some say Bondi has learned from past media blow-ups and is determined to control the narrative this time from the ground up, keeping everything airtight until she's ready for a formal reveal. While she may not be on stage giving speeches, the behind-the-scenes movements are as telling as any campaign announcement. Beyond the dinner tables, the chess pieces continue to move. Observers have noticed a sudden reactivation of Bondi's older network, advisors, operatives, and legal aides she worked with during her tenure as Florida's Attorney General are quietly re-entering the picture. Some have been spotted attending events they haven't frequented in years, especially ones where Bondi has either appeared or been scheduled to appear. It's as if the old crew is getting back together, quietly rehearsing before the curtain rises. Even more telling is the presence of a known GOP media consultant, someone with a history of helping candidates manage image crises and sharpen public messaging. This consultant has reportedly traveled with Bondi to at least 2 closed-door functions in the last month. Why would she need a media expert if she wasn't preparing to say something big, and soon? Add to that the whispers that a legal advisor from her past has been reviewing older case files and public statements, not for legal threats, but for potential political vulnerabilities, ammo that opponents could use if she re-enters the public arena. But perhaps the most concrete clue of all is digital. In an age where campaigns begin online long before they hit the streets, nothing speaks louder than a website domain. A respected digital strategist recently discovered that a domain name tied directly to Bondi's full name and the year 2026 was quietly registered just weeks ago. The kicker? It wasn't purchased by a fan page or some anonymous political junkie. It was registered through a Washington, D.C.-based political consulting firm, one known for launching the digital fronts of multiple high-profile Republican Senate campaigns over the past decade. That's not the kind of move someone makes on a whim. That's a calculated step, a marker placed on the board by someone who's not just considering a run, but preparing for one. Domains like that aren't cheap, and they don't happen without foresight. Campaigns plan their web presence months, sometimes years, in advance to lock down branding, email collection, and voter engagement tools. So if Bondi or someone in her circle made this move, they're laying down the digital infrastructure right now. This isn't a rumor or a coincidence, it's a strategic investment. Still, none of this is being talked about publicly. Bondi hasn't mentioned the Senate once. No campaign filings, no slogans, no launch videos. But ask any seasoned political observer and they'll tell you, by the time a campaign becomes public, the real work has already been happening for months behind the scenes. Quiet dinners, reactivated contacts, coordinated messaging, domain purchases, these are all classic pre-campaign indicators. And the reason they're kept under wraps is simple: timing is power. The longer Bondi can build without media scrutiny or opponent attacks, the stronger her position will be when she does finally step forward. It allows her to test donor loyalty, refine her platform, and avoid early mistakes that could derail momentum. The silence from her team may appear passive, but it's actually part of the plan. Insiders suggest she's working on a phased rollout strategy, starting with donor alignment and back-channel conversations, moving into soft public appearances, and eventually landing on an official announcement only when everything is tightly locked in. This is how modern campaigns are run, more like carefully crafted productions than spontaneous declarations. Every tweet, every appearance, every handshake is rehearsed and intentional. If Bondi really is preparing for a Senate run, she's playing the long game, and she's playing it well. So while there may not be campaign ads on TV or banners in the streets just yet, the foundation is being poured beneath the surface. If you look closely, you'll see the signs. The moves may be quiet, but they're deliberate. She's not just returning to politics, she's orchestrating a comeback with precision. And if the early indicators are accurate, we may soon witness one of the most meticulously crafted Senate campaigns Florida has seen in years. If there's one golden rule in politics, it's this: if you want to know what's really going on, follow the money. Words can be vague, actions can be subtle, but the financial trail rarely lies. And in the case of Pam Bondi, that trail is starting to glow brighter with every passing week. Political analysts, watchdog groups, and digital investigators have been quietly tracking a series of financial moves over the last 2 months. And together, they paint a picture that's hard to ignore. While Bondi herself hasn't announced anything publicly, the money says otherwise, loud and clear. Let's start with the basics. Bondi hasn't filed any official paperwork to run for Senate. But campaign finance activity doesn't always show up in obvious places. Instead of direct fundraising, early-stage political comebacks often rely on soft money, unregulated funds channeled through political action committees, PACs, and nonprofits. And recently, there's been a noticeable uptick in donations to PACs historically aligned with Bondi's past political campaigns. These aren't huge headline-making donations, but they're frequent, strategic, and coming from familiar names: Florida real estate developers, energy investors, and a few high-dollar donors who've been quiet since the 2020 cycle. One Florida-based PAC, which hadn't seen more than a few $1,000s in years, suddenly received a 6-figure contribution in late June. Why does that matter? That PAC, while technically independent, shares board members and legal counsel with a team that worked closely with Bondi during her time as Attorney General. And the timing? It perfectly aligns with Bondi's increased presence at private events and behind-the-scenes strategy meetings. Nothing has been publicly confirmed, but to those who follow campaign finance like a roadmap, it's as clear as day: this PAC is being reactivated, possibly in preparation for Bondi's next big political move. Now let's talk about donors. 2 of Florida's biggest Republican contributors, names that were practically synonymous with the state's conservative movement during the Trump era, have suddenly re-entered the scene after staying completely silent since 2020. These aren't just random donors, they're major players who have the power to kickstart a campaign war chest in a matter of days. One of them recently made a sizable, quiet donation to a media firm that previously handled ad production and messaging for Bondi's re-election campaigns. That same firm just renewed a media license and trademark used during her last campaign cycle, despite having no new clients publicly listed. Coincidence? Probably not. It's the kind of subtle move political insiders know to look for, a sign that preparations are quietly underway behind the scenes. But the money trail doesn't end there. One of the most intriguing developments comes in the form of a new nonprofit that popped up just a few weeks ago. It's branded as a civic education and leadership training organization, focused broadly on constitutional values, patriotism, and next-generation leadership. On paper, that sounds fairly neutral. But dig a little deeper, and things get interesting fast. The nonprofit shares a mailing address, and even a former office manager, with one of Bondi's past campaign headquarters. That's not a random overlap. These kinds of organizations are often used as testing grounds before a political run. They provide legal cover to gather email lists, run poll-tested messaging, and even host events without triggering the formal rules that come with launching an official campaign. In fact, multiple experts believe this nonprofit might be the clearest sign yet that Bondi is laying the groundwork for a Senate bid. These kinds of orgs can be used to float political messaging to voters, collect reaction data, and fine-tune a candidate's platform before they ever step on a debate stage or launch a campaign website. It's smart, it's subtle, and it's effective. And because the IRS classifies these nonprofits differently from traditional campaigns, they don't have to disclose donors in the same way. That means big money can move quietly, and strategists can operate with a level of secrecy that's impossible in the formal campaign world. On top of all this, fundraising software tied to this nonprofit has been linked to a larger GOP-aligned digital payment platform, a back-end system used by several high-profile Republican candidates in recent years. This platform allows for rapid conversion from supporter list to donor base once a campaign is officially launched. Translation: Bondi's team is potentially building a donor engine now, so they can hit the ground running later. No delays, no scrambling, just instant momentum. One political strategist familiar with the Florida GOP scene commented anonymously, saying, "When you see the money start to move this way, it's usually not by accident. People don't spend this kind of cash unless they're expecting a return, whether that's access, policy influence, or being on the winning team." Bondi may not be officially running yet, but financially, this is the kind of quiet build-up we associate with serious candidates preparing for high-stakes races. The buzz hasn't gone unnoticed by national Republican groups either. Though no endorsements have been made, there are whispers that the National Republican Senatorial Committee, NRC, is aware of Bondi's recent activity. Some insiders suggest that national fundraisers are monitoring the situation, possibly waiting for Bondi to make her move before locking in their financial commitments. It's a classic wait-and-see strategy, but one that indicates the party is at least taking the idea seriously. All of this points in one direction: Pam Bondi isn't just testing the waters, she's mapping the entire coastline. From private PAC donations and media firm contracts to the creation of message-testing nonprofits and renewed digital infrastructure, the financial groundwork of a Senate campaign is taking shape in real time. Whether she makes it official next month or next year, the pieces are being carefully and deliberately moved into place. In politics, announcements are dramatic, but the real story is often written in quiet transactions, forgotten office addresses, and the sudden reappearance of wealthy allies. That's exactly what's happening here. Pam Bondi may not be on the ballot yet, but if you follow the money, you'll see the future before it arrives. In politics, timing is everything. A few months too early, and you look desperate. A few months too late, and the momentum's already gone. That's why, when it comes to Pam Bondi's potential Senate run, experts say the real story isn't just if she'll run, but when. And right now, all signs point to a calculated move toward the 2026 Florida Senate race. Let's break this down. The 2026 Senate race is shaping up to be one of the most high-stakes political contests in Florida. With national attention already beginning to build, the Republican Party sees this as a seat they must defend, and potentially expand their influence through. While the official candidate field hasn't been finalized, it's widely believed that one or more current GOP incumbents may retire, or be vulnerable due to recent shifts in political alliances. That opens a big door for someone like Pam Bondi. She's a known name. A political brand, really. From her years as Florida's Attorney General to her high-profile media appearances during Donald Trump's presidency, Bondi has stayed in the public conversation. Her connection to the Trump base, a group that remains incredibly powerful in Florida, gives her an advantage over more moderate or less recognizable candidates. If she times her entry right, she could immediately claim national media coverage and massive grassroots energy. And the 2026 window is ideal. It gives her time to rebuild her image, craft a clear campaign message, and reactivate her political infrastructure without rushing into the fire. It's far enough away that early organizing doesn't attract overwhelming scrutiny, but close enough that groundwork laid now can pay off big in the near future. Florida's Republican landscape is changing rapidly. Once the domain of moderate conservatives and establishment figures, the state's GOP has been shifting further to the right. Largely under the influence of national trends and Trump-era populism. Bondi, who's aligned herself with that movement, fits comfortably within the state's current power structure. But there's a catch. While she has strong allies, she also has potential enemies within her own party. Some factions of Florida's GOP view Bondi scandals and recent backlash as liabilities. They worry that she could bring too much baggage into a general election and potentially split the conservative vote if she's challenged in a primary. That's where strategy becomes crucial. Bondi appears to be quietly trying to unify key players behind her: early donors, former staff, legal advisors, and messaging experts. These private gatherings in Palm Beach and Tallahassee? They're not just casual reunions. They're strategic planning sessions, where the unspoken goal is to assess loyalty, build trust, and prevent future infighting before it starts. In other words, she's not just preparing to run. She's preparing to win, and that means locking down her party before she takes on her opponents. Bondi's national visibility gives her an undeniable advantage. Very few potential Senate candidates in Florida have the kind of name recognition she brings to the table. She's a regular on conservative media, a familiar face to Fox News viewers, and a recognized ally of Donald Trump's inner circle. That kind of brand recognition is invaluable in federal races. It also brings access to national donors, national political action committees, and national campaign infrastructure. While other candidates might spend months trying to introduce themselves to voters outside their home districts, Bondi already has that name power baked in. She could launch a campaign and immediately command attention, not just in Florida, but across the country. However, this spotlight cuts both ways. Her critics, on both sides, are just as ready to pounce. The media backlash she recently faced has left a mark, especially among moderates and independents. Allegations of misconduct, her controversial TV appearances, and accusations of political favoritism have made her a polarizing figure. And that polarization could become a problem in a general election, especially if Democrats are able to unite around a strong, charismatic challenger. There's another tension simmering just beneath the surface: the divide between traditional Republicans and the more hardline MAGA-aligned candidates. Bondi's association with Trump puts her squarely in the latter camp, which could either help or hurt her depending on the direction the GOP takes in 2026. If Trump maintains his influence, and all current signs suggest he will, Bondi may be seen as a loyal soldier returning for another tour. That could earn her endorsements, money, and support from major MAGA figures across the country. But if the party begins to pivot back toward a more traditional, DeSantis-style conservatism, Bondi could find herself boxed in, perceived as a relic of an earlier, more chaotic political era. This internal party struggle is one reason Bondi hasn't gone public yet. She's watching. Waiting. Measuring the direction of the wind before making a move. Let's be clear, Bondi is no stranger to controversy. And it's one of the biggest obstacles she'll have to overcome if she plans to run for Senate. From ethics complaints during her time as Attorney General to questions about her post-government media contracts, Bondi has developed a reputation as a political lightning rod. Some voters admire her toughness and see the criticism as proof she's shaking up the system. Others view it as proof that she's part of a broken system herself. For Bondi to be successful, her team will need to rebuild her credibility, not just with her base, but with swing voters who decide close elections. That's likely why she's been working behind the scenes with media consultants, digital strategists, and former legal aides. These are the people who will help her rewrite the narrative. Turn controversy into strength. Reframe backlash as resilience. It's a delicate balancing act, and it has to be done before the spotlight returns. This kind of political comeback doesn't happen by accident. It's engineered, step by step, and often in total silence. Bondi isn't rushing to podiums or throwing campaign parties. Instead, she's quietly assembling a war room. A donor network. A message machine. Political analysts say this phase is the most important. It's where a candidate identifies weaknesses, recruits allies, and lays out a blueprint for the months ahead. Public campaigns are loud, but the real decisions happen in private. And right now, Bondi is deep in that private phase. If and when she decides to go public, she'll be ready, not just with a slogan, but with a full campaign apparatus already in motion. Pam Bondi may not have declared anything yet, but every move she's making suggests a strategic comeback is underway. The timing is aligned with the 2026 Senate race, and her political profile, donor base, and national media presence position her as a major contender, if she can overcome the internal resistance and media scrutiny. The real question isn't if she's planning to run, it's whether she's building a campaign strong enough to survive both the primaries and the general election battlefield. And so far, all signs point to yes. Pam Bondi's recent moves have sparked one of the most intriguing political conversations in Florida, possibly even nationwide. Is she preparing for a Senate run? While there's been no official announcement, the signs are unmistakable. What we're seeing isn't the behavior of someone retiring from the political world, it's the strategic repositioning of someone who plans to return stronger and more calculated than before. From quietly reconnecting with key donors and consultants, to rebranding efforts across digital channels, Bondi's every step appears to be part of a deliberate, long-term strategy aimed at reclaiming political relevance and possibly stepping into a federal office. Her name has surfaced once again in major GOP circles, with whispers growing louder as PAC donations surge, old alliances resurface, and new digital infrastructure begins to take shape around her. Even the purchase of a political domain name through a firm that specializes in Senate campaigns suggests careful groundwork. This is not coincidence, it's preparation. Bondi has never been a background figure. Her role as Florida's Attorney General put her on the national map, and her alliance with Donald Trump only amplified that visibility. Her defenders say she represents strong conservative leadership and brings media-savvy communication skills to the table, while her critics argue she's too closely tied to controversial moments in Trump-era politics and allege she lacks transparency. Regardless of where people fall on that spectrum, one thing is true, she knows how to make headlines, and she understands the mechanics of power. Bondi's silence in the months following media controversies may have seemed like retreat, but it now appears to be part of a broader strategy to reset her political image out of the public eye. Now, her re-emergence is sending clear signals, she's far from done. The Senate could be the natural next step for her, and the timing might work in her favor. With a Florida seat potentially opening in 2026, and with the state GOP still reshuffling in the wake of Trump's ongoing influence and the ambitions of rising conservative stars, Bondi could leverage her deep political roots and connections to establish a compelling campaign. Her past experience, national exposure, and close association with Trump could serve as both an asset and a liability, winning over MAGA voters while potentially alienating more moderate Republicans. That's why she appears to be testing the waters carefully, hosting private dinners with power players, gauging donor sentiment, and carefully rebuilding her inner circle of trusted advisors and image handlers. The key to Bondi's strategy is subtlety. By avoiding official declarations and public campaign-style events, she shields herself from early attacks while building the foundation she'll need if she does decide to run. This gives her the freedom to explore her options, analyze polling data, and lock in commitments from major backers before facing public scrutiny. It's the political version of getting all your pieces in place before making a move on the chessboard. Analysts say it's a smart way to stay ahead of rivals who may not yet be focused on 2026, and to reassert influence inside the GOP without having to formally commit to a race just yet. And make no mistake, Bondi is polarizing, but she's also resilient. She's withstood high-pressure media storms, endured intense criticism over ethics and political loyalty, and still managed to remain relevant in Republican circles. Whether this next chapter results in an official campaign or not, Bondi's activity ensures that she's part of the conversation, part of the future landscape of conservative politics in Florida and possibly beyond. For her supporters, this is a welcome comeback. For her critics, it's a concerning return. But for political watchers, it's a masterclass in how potential candidates can prepare for a major run without ever saying a word to the public. So, is Pam Bondi preparing for a Senate run? The evidence is mounting. And if the political winds continue to blow in her favor, she could soon go from planning behind the scenes to campaigning on the main stage. For now, she's keeping the country guessing, but everything she's doing points toward a calculated re-entry into national politics. Whether it happens in 2026 or takes another form entirely, one thing's for sure, Pam Bondi isn't fading quietly. She's plotting her next move, and the Senate may just be her destination. And there you have it, Pam Bondi, once off the radar, now making all the right moves for a dramatic return to national politics. Whether it's a full-blown Senate run or a powerful position behind the curtain, one thing is crystal clear, she's not done yet. The signs are all around us: quiet meetings, renewed alliances, money flowing, and a carefully crafted image reboot. This isn't random, it's political strategy in motion. The question now isn't if she'll make a move, but when. What do you think? Is Pam Bondi gearing up for a real comeback, or is this just political theater? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a beat in American politics. We've got more explosive updates and deep dives coming your way, right here on Inside American Politics. Until next time, stay sharp, stay informed.